All right, time to play with vector magic. So we're going to go to modules, in modules. You're going to go to the vector and bitmap because we're still working with that. And now we're going to use pen tool lines and shapes. So today we're going to be creating lines and shapes using the pen tool. Yeah, pretty clever title because it is what it says. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how to download one of these images. And the way that you'll do that, I've given you instructions there. To save the image at the left, right click and save to your computer. So I'm going to right click, I'm going to save the image as. Yours might look a little bit different than mine. I'm just going to save it as the downloads. And if you're using Chrome, you'll see it pop up right there. The next thing that I'm going to do is go to vector.com, vectr.com, and I'm going to create a new file, which opens up my workspace. Now, today we're going to be starting with the image, and we're going to basically just be tracing the image. So what I'm going to do is to go over to my toolbar here on the left, and I'm going to choose Upload Image, and then I'm going to navigate to wherever that is on my drive or on my computer, and mine is down like that, and open. And here it is. So you can see it's a little bit bigger than the workspace, so I'm going to actually just shrink it down just a little bit. Here's kind of a cool thing. You can select your image and then zoom in on it as well, and you'll be able to see it a little bit better. So just know that if you want to zoom in, you can click on the plus or the minus to zoom in and out. What I'd like to do is to trace this image, but in order to trace it, I need to be able to see the line that I'm putting down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the opacity. So with that, I'll click on, there it is, sorry, there's an extra bar on the side that helps you raise it up. Opacity is just how transparent or opaque your object is. So opacity is just another word for opaqueness. It means it's not transparent. So opacity at 100% means that it is 100% opaque. You can't see through that to a layer below. However, if I drag this slider while clicking that button, and that needs to be clicked. What is going on here? There we go. Yes, technology, right? I'm just going to bring this down to 20%. So now it really makes it grayed out, and that's perfect because when I start to draw with the pen tool, I'm going to be able to see my lines. So the first one that I'm going to draw, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. Now remember, with the pen tool, you're not clicking and dragging to draw like you would if you had a pencil. What you're doing is you're putting down points. So I'm going to put down an anchor point at that end of the line, and I'm going to go to the other side and drop that anchor point. Now, I could continue, with points if I wanted to make a shape, but I don't. So I'm just going to press return or enter, and now I have that line drawn. So I'm going to select that line just so that you can see changing properties of it, making it bigger, thicker, or thinner, depending on what I want to do. That looks good. About 3 pixels is fine. So the next one with the pen tool is just simply clicking and dropping on those points. I just click, and I just do that over and over. And what that does is it allows me to make straight lines, right? So I'm just going to continue doing that the whole way through. Try to get it directly on those lines as best you can, because your goal really is to match it pretty precisely. All right, now if I zoom in, you're going to see that I'm off a little bit. So if I double click on that object, the little points pull up, and if I just click and drag them into position, then I'm able to do an accurate tracing of really any shape or line, but in this case just going to be lining it up with the points so that it is accurate, because I want it to be as accurate as possible. I just want to start out, as I'm learning this, to just take my time and be precise, because precision really makes a big difference in graphic design. It's those little details that matter, and I just want you to get in the habit of making very precise movements. When it comes time to drawing curved lines, it's going to involve clicking and dragging. So I'm going to start out at the end of the line that I want to draw, and I'll click, and then I'm going to go to the peak of this wavy line, and I'll just click and drag, and from this point I can do it a couple of ways. If I'm just doing it on the tops and the bottoms of the trough, just like this, it makes it pretty easy. Now I can move those points if I don't like how they're positioned. So if I mess up or something, I can simply click back on that point and drag it. And then to get it to continue, I'll click on that point and you can see the handles show up again. So then I'm going to click and drag and just keep doing that. Oops, 1 second. Try to zoom out a little bit so I can actually see this here. There we go. And click and drag. Click and drag. And click and drag. So just depending on how much or how steep of a line or a rise or fall in that curve that you want, that's going to determine the size of the handle that you pull. And you just do that over and over, and then you get to the end, click and press return. Now if I zoom in again, which I'm going to do from time to time to just check my work, you'll see that the line doesn't line up very well. So if I double click on that line and then manipulate the handles a little bit, I might be able to actually just move that over and then click on the next anchor, and I can move that over and it sure lines up a little bit better. And just by messing around with the handles a little bit, either the placement of the handle or the size of the handle, it allows me to control exactly where I put that anchor point, right? And then also it's going to control, and I can pretty closely trace any shape doing this. So it's just one of those things that just takes a little bit of practice, and you'll get it. But you just remember that with vectors, you're looking at points out in space and then the paths in between them that make up the lines, and then of course connecting those different points to make shapes as well. So this is looking good enough. And also there has to be a point where it's just, it is good enough. So on this assignment, in particular, I'm not caring about 100% precision. And you can see if I zoom in that there's just a little bit of gray from the shape that I'm tracing, that line that I'm tracing. And I could potentially get that a little bit more even, right? Or a little bit more accurate. But again, you're learning how to do this, so just make sure that you just take the time to get it as close as possible. Okay. And then you're just going to keep doing that over and over and over. So I'm just going to fast forward through this and so that you can see the final product. And once you've drawn your image, you can still see the original photo or whatever it was that you traced. In this case, it was a previous drawing. And you can still see that coming through underneath. So what we're going to do is find it in the layers over here. And there's a little eyeball icon with a slash through it. And it's grayed out, but when you click on that, it instantly lightens in the panel, and then it hides that drawing. So now all that's left is your work, and that's what you're going to want to turn in. So again, to turn it in, you'll just click export, and you're going to change it to JPEG for this one, and then you're just going to download it. So you're saving it to your computer, and then you'll turn it into Canvas. And you'll do that for each one of the drawings on this page.